So I'm not going to mention theoretical frameworks at all, you'd be glad to know. But what I'm going to do is, and I think it's very important, that first of all, it's June the 7th, and you've all came here today, and we're in the midst of state examinations, and a lot of people here today that are teachers. They've actually just gotten their holidays, and you're still here learning about culturally responsive assessment and how to improve your school. So we'd really like to thank you all, and indeed our colleagues from near and far, for actually attending today on a lovely sunny Friday. So on my behalf, if you could give yourselves a round of applause, fantastic, very much. Thank you very much for coming. And it goes without saying, Dublin City University for hosting the event. Professor Brian McGrath, who had to go off to another event. But again, he really put it in perspective. And as you could see, his knowledge of cultural responsivity was actually most inspiring. Our beloved Master of Ceremony, friend and colleague Jerry, for doing such a sterling job. I think he deserves a round of applause because he had to be attentive all the time. School of Policy and Practice, DCU Institute of Education, the European Commission. And also we'd like to acknowledge and thank Joe, actually was the person that really came up with the idea of bringing culturally responsive assessment with Jerry to the actual island of Ireland. So I think a big round of applause for this man over here. He's deserves this. He was going to get annoyed that Jerry didn't mention him earlier on, so I thought I'd better. Of course, European Commission for funding the actual project. This is actually quite an expensive project, believe it or not. And thank you to them for giving us money to carry out the project. Lurgas Ireland, who are always on the phone when we don't actually understand anything. They've been massively supportive in more ways than one, so we'd like to thank them. Our colleagues, Professor Stafford Hood from Crea, Illinois, who actually for years and years and years has actually been studying this whole notion of cultural responsivity as well. We'd like to thank him. Our colleagues from Northern Ireland who travelled all the way down here to listen to us talk about culturally responsive assessment. School principals and teachers and parents and students. Some people always forget this, and I think sometimes I'm really shocked. We went into these schools, and teachers that are on heavy workloads, and parents coming into schools, and students in schools, and they're already really, really busy people. For them to actually fill out the surveys, for us to actually go into the schools and take them out of their classes, and to come into the schools, I mean, it was absolutely amazing the amount of reception we actually had, and they definitely were really so important to this research. We couldn't have done it without them. So for in absentia, if people aren't there, case study people, if you can give them a big round of applause, because they're absolutely fantastic. Our keynote speakers were amazing, put simply. So I think we need a big round of applause for them. And our speakers, of course, we'd have to say they were amazing as well. So we'd give them a round of applause as well. And finally, I'd like to thank our Austrian, Irish, Norwegian and Turkish ACRAS team members who for the last 3 years have actually given up a lot of their life, and it should be acknowledged. 3 years, it actually seems like yesterday, but it's already gone by. So to close the project, on my behalf, if you wouldn't mind giving these fantastic people a big round of applause.